As President Zelensky is here in Washington, Russia has unleashed a new missile bombardment across Ukraine. CNN's Fred Pleitgen is on the ground for us in Zaporizhia. Fred, tell us about these new attacks and their targets.
Hi there, Wolf. Yeah, it was really just as President Volodymyr Zelensky was gearing up for his meetings in Washington, D.C., that the Russians unleashed that really strong and big aerial attack in the early morning hours. And the air raid alarms were on for several hours in wide parts of the country. And the Russians not only used ballistic missile for this attack, but even 10 nuclear-capable strategic bombers. Here's what happened.
Vladimir Putin unleashing massive aerial attacks across Ukraine, just as Ukraine's president visits Capitol Hill and the White House. Firefighters rushing the wounded out of the burning ruins of this hotel in the town Cherkasy. The sound I heard was boom, and I saw all the windows were gone in the kitchen and in the bedroom, this woman says. And she adds, at around 6 in the morning, there was an explosion, a strong one. We came here, saw the windows that shattered in the shop. Kyiv says the Russians launched 43 cruise missiles in the early morning hours. And while Ukraine's air defenses were able to shoot down most of them, some did come through. Also hitting energy infrastructure. Kyiv saying the power grid here hasn't been attacked on this scale in half a year. The Ukrainians certain more strikes will follow as temperatures begin to fall. We can make certain assumptions that the fuel and energy sector facilities will be further targeted by the enemy, the Air Force spokesman says. Zelensky urging the U.S. and its allies to provide more modern air defense systems, but Ukraine also fighting back. The satellite company Planet Labs releasing these images after the Ukrainians say they struck Russian targets in occupied Crimea, including a military airfield. On the front lines, the Ukrainians say they're making gains. Cover me, I'll get closer to them, the soldier says. This video released by a unit operating on the Eastern Front. While in the south, Kyiv says its counteroffensive there is also gaining steam, even though the going remains tough. Despite mining and engineering equipment, as well as strong resistance from the occupiers, our units had a partial success, advanced into the depths of the enemy's defense and along the front, he says. But the Russians may already be gearing up for yet another large-scale aerial campaign against Ukraine's critical infrastructure.
So as you can see there, Wolf, quite an eventful day here in Ukraine today. And you know, the past couple of days, we have been near the southern front line where the main thrust of Ukraine's counteroffensive is happening. Of course, over a lot of those Western weapons are being used as well. And the soldiers there on the ground tell us, of course, they do need longer range weapons, as they've been saying for a while, but also a lot more artillery ammo and ammo for HIMARS to try and make more gains. Wolf.
Fred Pleitgen reporting from the ground in Ukraine. Stay safe over there, Fred. Thank you very much. Let's go to Capitol Hill right now, where President Zelensky met with lawmakers as House Republicans are at odds right now over funding for Ukraine. A rebellion by GOP hardliners pushing the government toward a potential shutdown within days. All of this happening at the same time and putting the House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in political peril. CNN's chief congressional correspondent Manu Raju is up on Capitol Hill for us. Manu, how is Speaker McCarthy navigating President Zelensky's visit?
He took a much different approach, Wolf, than Senate leaders did. You saw a bipartisan showing behind President Zelensky in the Senate. Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader, walking alongside President Zelensky, along with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. On the House side, much different. Only Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, seen in public, walking with Zelensky. McCarthy, on the other hand, did meet behind closed doors, was pictured with him behind closed doors, but it wasn't until our colleague Annie Greer got photos of them together that there was public viewing of Zelensky and McCarthy meeting. McCarthy made the decision not to allow Zelensky to give a joint address to Congress. He also decided not to have Zelensky meet with the full House Republican conference behind closed doors or the full House, much different than the Senate, which had a full meeting of the 100 senators behind closed doors with Zelensky earlier today. And there is still a question about whether Speaker McCarthy will get behind $24 billion in aid to Ukraine that Zelensky himself himself made a personal appeal for, saying this is vitally necessary for his country to push back against Russian aggression. McCarthy, on the other hand, said there are still questions he has about whether, and one big question, whether he'll get behind it.
What is victory? What does it take to be able to win? But I believe when we're looking at where we're going right now, Zelensky has answered a lot of questions. We've got to get our fiscal house taken care of here in America. What I was asked for was a joint session, given like a week before. We don't have the time for a joint session.
And Wolf, this could come to a head as soon as next week if the Senate moves forward with a plan to keep the government open that includes that aid to Ukraine. Still an open question what Speaker McCarthy will do, because as he heard right there, he's not committing to having a vote on the floor for this aid, and certainly not before the government could shut down as soon as next week, Wolf.
Is Speaker McCarthy, Manu, actually running out of options to avert a government shutdown?
At this point, Wolf, there are not many options. He could cut a deal with Democrats, but if he does that, it could open him up from a revolt from the right wing of his conference, warning that he could be out as Speaker if he were to do that. And that would mean that the other option, try to get a bill through the House with Republican votes alone. But he has not been able to get enough Republican votes to get there, much less get a deal with the Senate and get something to the White House. And Wolf, he sent House members home for the weekend because he does not have a deal. He had planned to have a vote on Saturday, but that's not happening amid these divisions, Wolf.